I'm Jack, and my speech is on fine particulate air pollution and plastic pollution in the Pacific Ocean. A large majority of students in our class said that they'd be willing to put work in to reduce their environmental impact. Many also said that they could share rides with their friends to school. So what is it that stops them from actually pursuing these things? Is it some sort of social stigma? Our environment is at an all-time decline, and every one of us can do something about it. All those plastic bottles we use mindlessly end up in a dump, or even worse, they end up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, destroying habitats. There's no reason to run propaganda and scare people about something that we don't know that much about, but it doesn't mean that we should do anything about it or that we should disregard it. What we do know is compelling and somewhat scary. Many academic journals support the existence of pollution and recommend that we should take steps towards having less of a lasting impact on it. What we need to do is to find ways to reduce our environmental impact and help the fight for strict legislation against dangerous pollutants. The effect of plastic pollution on our ocean is growing quickly, and an alternative to traditional plastics is trivial. The pollution of exhaust and factory fumes is causing detrimental effects on our environment and even atmosphere, well hurting people's lungs. A primary form of pollution that many people forget about is plastics. Plastics are destroying habitats, and they take a very long time to decompose compared to other pollutants. Plastics are one of the most common forms of packaging, so they cause a lot of harmful pollution. More than 4.8 million metric tons of plastic waste enters the ocean from land each year. This is a quote that I found from Academic One File from an article called An Ocean of Plastic. I accessed this article on October 16th, 2016. Miles of ocean in the North Pacific are plagued with plastic particulates that follow the tides. The plastics don't actually break down, they just turn into small particulates that float around the ocean and follow the tides. This is detrimental to the wildlife because it's infested their natural habitat. We may not even know about many of the species affected by this that could someday be useful to us for medicine or some economic benefit. Removal of the plastics from the ocean is almost impossible because the plastics degraded into those small particulates. Alternatives to using plastic are possible, but the main way to start reducing your impact now is to reuse plastics and not to throw them away. Every time you use a plastic bottle, you can think of a way to reuse it, or you can just recycle it. 25% of our class has said that they use more than 3 plastic bottles a day. If everyone was just to refill one bottle, a significant reduction would be done in the plastic bottle pollution. If we pair these tactics with reducing other forms of plastics and packaging in foods, and find alternative ways, we could prevent a dangerous environmental impact on our planet. When we don't think about plastic pollution, we can look up to the sky, and the carbon-based pollutants from burning fuel in power plants are very obvious. It may be hard to see physically, but the fine particle air pollutants are very dangerous. Fine particle air pollution is poisonous to humans, especially in concentrated regions like cities. If carbon-burning plants and exhaust fumes are already affecting human health and welfare so intensely, then something has to be done about it. Over the 19th and 12th centuries, humans have come to rely solely on these forms of power, and they're now embedded in our lifestyles, and they're affecting our health, but they're very hard to reduce. When levels of particulate matter edged up in various cities, hospital visits and deaths from heart and lung disease rose slightly too. This is a quote that I found from Academic One File from an article called Mounting Evidence Indicts Fine Particle Pollution. I accessed this on October 16th, 2016. This means that in places with higher particulate matter, the chance of heart and lung diseases are greatly increased. This furthers the research done in the past and substantiates the necessity for change and energy reform. Scientists have discovered a new anti-pollution chemical called SAMMS, or SAMS, which could be a game changer in particulate air pollution. SAMS integrates a nanoporous silica-based substrate with an innovative method for attaching monolayers or single layers of densely packed molecules that can be designed to attract mercury or other toxic substances. I found this from an article called Mercury Absorbing Pollution Solution in the Journal of Environmental Health, and I accessed this on October 16th, 2016. This means that technology is being developed that can remove mercury and other particulate pollution from the atmosphere or prevent it from ever entering the atmosphere. None of this can be fruitful unless people take the initiative to create change and push for pollution and energy reform. We can make a serious change by reducing our own personal use of plastics, fighting for political reform in green energy and plastic regulation, and making innovations like SAMMS or SAMS that can absorb pollutants. Overcoming the social stigma of caring too much can be very difficult, but no one wants to live in a world where the environment is causing heart and lung disease, all while destroying natural habitats. The only way to reduce this issue, and hopefully someday eradicate it, is to invest in research and fight for political enforcement, for corporations to employ these safer practices. Everyone can play their part to reduce carbon emissions by driving less and sharing rides to school or work. The same things can be said for plastics. And their detrimental effects on the natural ocean environments. We can use alternative packaging and fight for political reform. This is a fight worth joining and change worth working towards to protect the interests of the human race.